Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a universal brain glitch that literally affects our daily choices, our careers, and yep, even billion-dollar businesses. We're going to unpack the science and the psychology behind why it is just so incredibly difficult for us humans to simply cut our losses and move on. Okay, let's kick things off with a quick scenario. Imagine you bought a $200 non-refundable plane ticket to Italy. You're super excited, but 2 days before the trip, you get violently sick. It's nothing life-threatening, but man, you can barely keep anything down. So, do you tough it out and board that grueling 10-hour flight just so you don't lose your money? Or think about a smaller scale. Have you ever sat through an absolutely terrible movie just because you paid $50 for the ticket? Well, if you've ever forced yourself through misery just because you already paid for it, your brain has kind of lied to you.
Section 1. The Sunk Cost Trap.
So, the sunk cost fallacy is exactly what it sounds like. It's the tendency to just keep investing in something that is clearly failing, simply because you've already put your time, effort, money, or energy into it. It's literally the reason we force ourselves to finish a totally boring book when we're 100 pages in, or, why people stay in dead-end careers they absolutely hate. We do it just to avoid feeling like our past efforts were wasted. Now here's where it gets interesting, because standard economics tells us exactly how we should be making these decisions. Economists draw a hard line between retrospective costs, which are the time and money you've already spent and can never get back, and prospective costs, which are the future costs you can still avoid. The totally rational way to make a choice relies on what economists call the bygones principle. This principle basically says that a rational decision must only consider future consequences. Because what's gone is gone, right? It's water under the bridge. Your past investment should honestly have zero influence on your next move.
But here's how poorly we actually follow that rational advice in the real world. Economists Hal Arkus and Catherine Bloomer ran this famous experiment using theater season tickets. They randomly sold tickets to patrons at 3 different price points: the full regular price of $15, a discount of $7, and a deep discount of just $2. The result? Well, the people who paid the full $15 irrationally forced themselves to attend way more plays throughout the season than those who got the discounts. Even if they didn't really want to go, that $15 sunk cost completely drove their behavior. Believe it or not, the only subjects in similar scenarios who behaved entirely rationally were kids under the age of 6.
Section 2. Why our brains trick us. So, what's actually happening in our heads? There are a few cognitive drivers tricking our brains here. First up is loss aversion. We humans are naturally wired to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains. I mean, the pain of losing $50 feels way stronger than the joy of finding $50. Second, we have this deep desire not to appear wasteful either to ourselves or to other people. Third is an over-optimistic probability bias, meaning we suddenly think our odds of success are way higher the second we commit to something. Fourth, a sense of personal responsibility makes it incredibly hard to admit a mistake we personally orchestrated. And finally, framing effects. Basically, how a situation is presented to us totally alters our perception of risk.
Let's actually look a little closer at that over-optimistic probability bias, because it is fascinating. Back in a 1968 study, researchers approached bettors at a horse track. They asked these people to rate their horse's chance of winning on a 7-point scale. Now, bettors who were about to place a $2 bet rated their horse at a 3.48, so a fair chance. But people who were asked literally seconds after handing over their $2 rated their horse at a 4.81, a good chance. Merely making that sunk cost commitment instantly warped their brains into being irrationally confident.
But, the sunk cost fallacy isn't just about losing $2 at the racetrack. It can actually scale into highly dangerous territory through something known as plan continuation bias. This is when individuals force the continuation of a plan even in the face of changing, really adverse conditions. Think of a sea captain persisting on a risky, scheduled course just to avoid a time delay and eventually running the ship aground, which is actually exactly what caused the infamous Torrey Canyon oil spill.
And the consequences in aviation are equally staggering. A 2004 NASA study analyzed 19 fatal aerospace accidents, and they found that out of those 19 devastating crashes, the air crew exhibited this exact plan continuation bias in 9 of them. They just couldn't abandon their initial investment in the flight path, even when disaster was literally imminent.
Section 3. From tickets to toxic relationships.
So this exact same mental glitch scales up and compounds over an entire lifetime.
It starts in hours, like sitting through that terrible movie. Then it scales to years, sticking with a 4-year college degree or a career path you absolutely despise just because you already started it. Then it stretches into decades, refusing to leave a toxic relationship because, well, you feel like you've already invested too much time. And at the very top, it scales to entire nations and generations. The British and French governments famously poured billions into the Concorde supersonic jet long after everyone knew it was a commercial disaster. In fact, this bias is often called the Concorde Fallacy for this exact reason.
But hey, before you judge yourself or those governments too harshly, consider this. Research by Sweze and colleagues discovered that this sensitivity to sunk costs actually crosses species barriers. Yep, mice and rats exhibit this exact same behavior. They will continue investing in a losing endeavor if they've already committed to it. Honestly, this destigmatizes the whole fallacy completely. It's a natural, evolutionary instinct embedded in our biology, not some sign of personal weakness.
Section 4. Escaping the fallacy.
All right, let's dive into 5 actionable steps we can take to rewire our brains. Step 1. Recognize the bias. Catch yourself when you start saying, "But I've already spent so much time on this." Step 2. Reevaluate your priorities. Does this current path actually align with what you want out of life today? Step 3, and honestly this is the big one, consider future costs. If you don't cut your losses today, where are you going to be 1 year or even 5 years from now? Step 4, seek outside support. Friends or professionals can offer objective views that are totally free from your emotional baggage. And finally, step 5, practice self-compassion. Give yourself a break. It is entirely okay to make mistakes and change course. So the choice in front of us is actually pretty clear. On one hand, throwing good money after bad means clinging to the past. On the other hand, cutting your losses means optimizing the present. Letting go isn't failing. It actually brings immense benefits. It frees up your mental and emotional health, it gives you greater clarity, and most importantly, it frees up your time and energy to explore new possibilities and opportunities that actually serve your future.
Now, doing this requires a total mindset shift. As science writer Florian Egner notes, quitting a bad investment, whether it's a deeply held conspiracy theory you've spent hundreds of hours reading about, a broken car you just sank $2,000 into, or a career you absolutely hate, is an achievement. When someone changes their mind and abandons a lost cause, we shouldn't ridicule them, right? We should applaud them, because changing one's mind is progress.
So I want to end this explainer with a direct challenge to you. Assuming you could completely ignore all the investments you've ever made, the money, the time, the emotion, the whole shebang, what would you be doing differently going forward? What sunk costs are currently holding you back from making a real change for your future?